Okay, here's another thing we do that's kind of good. I'm sure it's happened to you on a regular basis. You reel up and you just keep on reeling, and you reel, and that everything just keeps on going around. So pretty soon your leader's going around, and now you go to fish and you can't find your leader, especially if you've got a 5 or 6X tippet. It's buried inside of here, or worse yet, it's wrapped itself, and now when you pull, you see that that wrap is there. If you do that, and then you get a fish that runs all the way to the nail knot, or the knot you have between your backing and your fly line, it's going to break you off. So we've got about a foot of extra leader. When we get to that foot of leader or tippet, what we do is we take the line and you pull it in between the grooves. So you're pulling it in, and then rotate the reel, pull it in again, rotate the reel, pull it in again until it sticks inside of there, and then one last time pull it in and leave a tag of about 4 inches. Now when I take this reel off, that little tag, and I hope you can see it, but that little tag is going to be easy for me to find when I go to reel, and I don't have any issue with it getting trapped under itself and causing a problem. Here's a trick that we use a lot, and I'm sure it's happened to you. You've got a dark rod, you're sitting in the sun, you go to take it apart and you can't take it apart. First off, make sure you never try to take a rod apart by grabbing the guides. That's not something you want to do. Secondly, it's easier if you can just pull it apart, that would be great. But sometimes you have to rotate it a little bit to get it to come apart. Here's 2 things you can do to get these rods to come apart, other than have 2 people stand on them and have a tug of war. The first one is put this in cold water. If you put that in cold water, it contracts and it's easier to take apart. So you go to the river and just stick it in the water. I guarantee it will be easier to take apart. So that's the first thing, or under a sprinkler when you get home, or in the shower with the cold water. It doesn't take a lot of cold water. If this thing's been in 85 or 90 degree temperatures with the sun beating on it, it's going to swell up and cause a problem. So that's the first thing. The second thing, these are things you can get to, I use these in our fifth wheel to keep stuff from moving around inside of cupboards when we're moving. Really sticky rubber stuff. If you grab the rod up here with one thing and grab the rod down with the other, and now you twist and pull, you got a super grip with these things. So between cold water and that, I've never had a rod that really presented too much of a problem. So consider doing that. This and cold water will take your rods apart a lot easier. I know I've read, and I used to try to do this, where you're supposed to put it behind you and pull. Good luck. If that thing's really stuck, that's not coming apart. And so what people do instead, they tend to grab their guides and crank on their guides. And that's not something you ought to be doing. If you're doing a lot of on-the-water mending or roll casting, single spay casting, or even shooting long lines, the best thing you can do is have a clean, nice greased up line that's slick, because it's going to stick in a meniscus less, and the surface film of the water is going to prevent it from moving very well. So one of the things we do a lot, especially when we're nymph fishing and we're trying to do a lot of mending, is we try to keep our leader and our line greased. So if you're in a hurry, I've got some stuff in here. If you just want to do it temporarily, you take your little old fly floatant and just put a little bit on your hand and just grease your leader up to the fly or wherever you want to grease it, and grease the line and just grease it. All you really need to do usually is grease the first 15 or 20 feet. Try not to grease it and set it in the mud. But if you're greasing it in the water and you set this down, boy, that thing's going to float really high. Now when you do a mend, which we're going to show, if you turn to some of the rest of chapter 4, it shows water mends and how to make mends. A greased leader helps a lot. It also helps with roll casting, single spay casting, and distance. The other thing I like to do when I'm home is I like to take line cleaner. And there's a lot of different brands of line cleaner. This is Tiemco's line cleaner. I like it a lot because it's water. A lot of the line cleaners, they leak or they're liquid. This is a cleaner and a conditioner at the same time, and it's also got a screw top on it. So I like this one because now I can just take this pad, take the pad, and clean my line. And so what I would normally do if I'm going to clean my line is I just take it at home and clean it just by, and also one other secret with cleaning lines. When you clean a line, let me get this off here. When you clean a line, clean it from the back towards the leader. That's going to take all the curls out. So I'm going to clean the line like this. And then you can take a dry cloth and wipe off the excess if you want to. But if I'm on the water, I don't do that. I just let this stuff stay because I want it to sit as high on that water film, as high on that meniscus as I possibly can. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but this line's been used a little bit, and man, there's some black marks on it. And it's amazing how fast a line gets dirty. I try to clean my lines every day, and if I'm fishing in really dirty water with lots of particulates, like different kinds of algae, I'll clean my line 2 or 3 times in a day so it floats better and it shoots better. Salt water, I clean my line every couple hours, especially if it's a really hot day and that salt, the water evaporates and leaves a salt coating on your fly line. It makes it hard to cast, makes it hard to shoot. You can take this, put it inside your guides and rub it like that inside your guides. And what that's going to do is make your guides shoot a lot easier. So if you're into distance and you want to do it quick, grease your guides, clean your guides, grease your line, clean your line. And especially anytime you're doing a lot of mending. This is a size 26, a grade WD-40, which we use in a surface film quite a bit during a beta submerger and some mid-emergers during those hatches. Now, the problem with it, of course, is how do you see that? Now, you can put a dry fly on if you want to, but oftentimes a dry fly is big enough that it's going to disturb how this thing floats. So this is, right now it's on 6X. I would probably fish it on 7X. But let me just show you what we do so we can see this. Or small bugs like ants and beetles that you can't see because they're too low in the surface film, or even small flies, even small parachutes and stuff that are a long ways away. So we're going to zoom out so you can see a little bit more. So here we're on 6X, and I've gone to 3X right here. You might want to make a little more gentle progression, but let's assume this is what we have. And I want to be able to see that. Here's what I'm going to do. And we're going to zoom back in again, and we're going to put a knot in here, which will show you how to do in just a second. But what I want to do is I've got a piece of yarn, just a small piece of polypropylene yarn, or any kind of yarn probably would do. So I'm going to take this piece of yarn like this. Doesn't need to be much, just like that. I'm going to make this knot, which I'm going to show you in a second. And I'm going to set this piece of yarn in that loop that I just made. All it is a little slip kind of knot. I'm not even sure what you call that. I'm sure it has a name. So there we are. That's plenty. I could trim it, grease it, and I'm telling you that'll show at 50 feet. So now what you do is when you want to get done with it, you pull it out, straighten out, and there you are. So what we're going to do is you just take this and just wrap it like this, just an oval. Then reach through with your finger and grab the line. So now you've got this situation here. And now you just tighten up. Now it's important to tighten up before you put your yarn in there. So you're going to tighten up. You need that knot to be pretty tight, because if you don't, it'll wrap the yarn, and then the yarn will be very hard to take off. So here's my yarn. I stick it inside there, hold it, tighten this knot up. This is important. You tighten the knot up on the way. Don't wait till so that knot is now at the bottom of the yarn, like this. And that's going to be an awesome little indicator. You can cut it way farther than that if you want to, but it's not going to affect the flow at all. Once in a while, you'll actually get a fish to eat it because it looks kind of like wings. But when you're done, you pull it out just like that and pop it. Nothing left. Doesn't kink your line, doesn't hurt your line, it doesn't weaken it. If this is 3-pound test, 6X, and this is 8-pound test, even if you cut that in half, it's still 4-pound. Your weakest spot is going to be this knot and this knot. It's not going to be where you put your yarn. So don't worry about weakening the whole strength of your indicator system. Okay, there you go. That's an excellent trick.